Danny, where did we begin? Last time we talked, a lot has happened since the last time we talked. And this judge right now is asking for everybody to provide more details, perhaps even sit for depositions. How's this going to pan out?
This road appears to be leading towards contempt. And in my opinion, I think contempt would have already been a stop on this road, except that I think judges, and I can't really hold this against them, but I think judges are going to be really reluctant to hold the Trump administration in contempt, because who are you going to hold in contempt? These lawyers are acting under orders. And we've already seen the one lawyer in the administration, the government lawyer, who admitted that the government mistakenly removed Abrego Garcia. He is on suspension. He's essentially administratively suspended. So the administration has sent a message: you toe the party line, or else you will not be handling this case. So the real thorny issue for any judge is, if you're going to hold someone in contempt, who's it going to be? Because everybody in the government has a boss, except for one person in the administration, and that's Donald Trump.
Right.
So who's in contempt here?
Yeah.
So, Danny, how long is it going to take for the Supreme Court, do you think, to clean up the language of their order?
They have to have something before them. And this, I knew this was going to happen, and I'm no fortune teller. I think anybody who read the Supreme Court's order knew it was problematic because it's not clear enough. It just sends the case back down to the district court, which is common, by the way. This happens all the time. Appellate courts will say, this isn't really for us to decide. We're going to send it back to the lower court, to the district court, who has a better command of the facts, and remand it with instructions, and they'll carry out the wishes of the Supreme Court or the appellate court that heard it. In this case, the Trump administration has just taken the tack of saying, well, the way we read the Supreme Court's order, we're perfectly within our power to say you cannot, court, infringe on the power of the executive branch. So if you ask the administration, I guarantee you they don't think they're defying any court orders. They think they are complying with the court order, and they believe the Supreme Court order from last week was a win for them, not a loss.
Right. So a couple of things going on here at the same time. First of all, Pablo, I have to just say this. Every time we cover the story, every hour we cover it, every time they call this one case a mistake, it is subliminally, or there is an underlying validation that all the others are completely okay. They are not. If you follow the law, they are not. None of these people received due process, and there's reporting now that a good number of them may not have even committed a crime. So we're following those parts of the story as well. At the same time, Pablo, this case puts a face to it, a family to it, a heart to it, a soul to it. And it seems to be breaking through. Chris Matthews on this show during this hour yesterday said people aren't going to like this. And I wasn't sure. I was a little worried. I was a little worried about the underlying subtext, subtone of racism in this country that might sort of just put these people in a different category that you don't think about, which is just unthinkable for me. But I was worried. I think I might have been wrong. I think there's a sense that people are seeing a difference between right and wrong here, and they don't like it.
I think they're seeing that this gentleman, this undocumented man, is the face not merely of a family, but...
Can I just say, undocumented man who came here to escape being tortured, to escape tyranny, for a better life.
Yes,
Continue.
this man, given that context, they repeatedly call a terrorist. Yes. Repeatedly, just in defiance of every bit of reporting that's available.
Many times.
The defamatory aspect of this, let's even leave that to the side. Yeah. What I am so encouraged by when it comes to these town hall meetings in Iowa across the country is that people are also seeing him as an avatar of due process, of the rule of law itself.
Even as an illegal immigrant.
Because, to your point, the Constitution does defend undocumented people in this regard. This is, I mean, again, to paraphrase Joe, I'm not even a country lawyer, but it's pretty clear if you read the 14th Amendment. If you see interviews with Antonin Scalia in the past, this is not a debate.
Right.
These people deserve due process, equal protection, the five freedoms, as they say. And, Mara, what I see happening is a very familiar song being played in autocratic regimes, which is that you are too endangered and we are too strapped for resources to care about the rule of law.
Right.
That is the argument that has been made in El Salvador by the self-appointed, self-described coolest dictator in the world. And that is the echo that we are getting from our president here, too.
You know, one of the things that you touched upon, the anger at the town halls from ordinary Americans suggests to me that they have a keen understanding that when you start violating due process for any human beings, even if they are not a citizen,
yes,
that threatens all of us. That threatens the entire system. And I'm encouraged by that as well. But Kilmar Garcia, I hope that Trump has miscalculated. And to your point, Mika, there's some evidence that maybe he has. But what concerns me even more, though, is if this is not a constitutional crisis, what does a constitutional crisis then look like? And is this a test case, a trial run for the Trump administration to try and do this with a U.S. citizen, to try and defy Supreme Court orders on Social Security, on DOJ, on any manner of other issues that are at the heart of our democracy for ordinary Americans? And so if the system cannot hold now for Kilmar Garcia, will it hold for the rest of us? And that is the question that we should be asking.
Michael Tomasky, let me ask you this. It seems that we're witnessing a confluence of events here with these situations. And we saw what happened in Iowa at Grassley's town hall meeting. And it seems at one level, there's a group of people called Americans, American citizens, who are witnessing what some of them, maybe more than we think, are witnessing a combination of incompetence and inequity coming from Washington, D.C. Incompetence in terms of the policy on tariffs, incompetence on who gets jailed and who gets scooped out of school and taken away to places that we don't know about, and inequity in terms of most Americans think, you know, I know the difference between fair and unfair, and this seems to be unfair to them. What's your view?
I agree 100%. I'll throw the word lawlessness in there as well, Mike. We could both probably throw in another half dozen adjectives, but I think it's important to add lawlessness, complete contempt for constitutional procedures and traditions and for the law. I agree with what Mika said and what apparently Matthew said yesterday, that I do think public opinion is turning around on this question as people watch this more and more, as people hear day after day different administration officials impugn this man, Mr. Abrego Garcia, without offering any evidence, without saying anything about, why they make these claims about his character and his past. He was stopped in 2019 in Prince George's County. He was not charged with anything. He was turned over to ICE because he was an undocumented person, but he was released because there was no evidence that he was involved with anything. So, people are seeing this, and there's always going to be this core MAGA base, 30-something%, that's going to believe anything Trump and his people say and is going to say, he's undocumented, who cares? But that's a minority of this country. It really is. The majority cares about the idea that a man like this has due process rights under the United States Constitution.
I think everyone's kind of following this one so closely, Danny. So what's next? And also, what about the other cases that, again, are being kind of shoved to the side as like they're not a mistake when they are very clearly legal breaches?
Yeah, currently, there was an order by a district judge preventing these removals.
But they continue.
What, pardon?
They continue these flights, don't
Absolutely.
they?
Yes, they do. And the other thing, we talk a lot about due process. And unfortunately, I can tell you as a criminal defense attorney, due process often only requires notice and an opportunity to be heard. The challenge with Kilmar Garcia and others in his position is that at most, maybe they're entitled to be returned and then put through the ordinary due process for removal. And if there are grounds for removal, and removal doesn't always require a criminal conviction. As a criminal defense attorney, that's the section of the statute I deal with all the time. But there are others. If you're on public assistance, for example, you are technically eligible to be removed. And if, for example, in the case of Mahmoud Khalil, if the Secretary of State determines that you pose a problem for foreign policy, whatever the heck that means, because no one appears to have ever used that subsection. I wasn't aware it was there, and it's right next to the section that every criminal defense attorney uses all the time. If that gives the Secretary of State that kind of power, then maybe they can remove that person. In a sense, that is not a constitutional crisis if it is legal, if it is lawful under federal law. Now, do we have a complaint that this law even exists to allow that? Yes, but there it is. Congress, for whatever reason, enacted that law. And what the Trump administration is unbelievably good at is finding these subsections in these arcane statutes, dusting them off, and using them with really incredible efficiency.